Tonight's objective, reinforce key decisions. So some important decisions have been made over the past 2 years, and we want to make sure people are interpreting them and understanding them properly, specifically in relation to the development and recreational matrices. We're also going to clarify some major changes and opportunities. Some people like to use the word challenges. We prefer opportunities. We're talking here directly to league structure, the OPDL, the talented pathway. Also want to take the chance to clarify some misconceptions that are out there as well. Timeframes are really important. Ron alluded to the fact that the compass is more important than the clock, where we're heading and why. But still, with change, we need to set some milestones along the way. We need a sense of urgency because we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of catching up. And again, I'll echo Ron's comments. Tonight, very much of it is about hearing from you. We'll lay out the direction, but we want to hear from you. We want your feedback. We want your consultation. If you need more clarification, we'll try to give that. If there's disagreement, please tell us why. Okay, we really want to hear from you. And what I will say, and I think this is our 7th or 8th session over the last few weeks, and it's been really constructive everywhere we've gone. It's been a really positive environment where collectively people are ready for this change. So that's been really energising as we've moved throughout the province. LTPD touches every player. Okay? Just to clarify, it starts here when someone's 4 years old and they enter our sport. And it moves all the way through to this gentleman here at 70 years old who is still playing, probably for some of the same reasons that this 4-year-old is playing for here. What LTPD does is it puts the player's needs at the centre of our pathway. And the player's needs are different, very different here than what they are here, and obviously in between as well. And I don't want to preach to the converted here, but as we know, LTPD is very much about the recreational player as much as it's about the elite and the talented player as well. I think there's a feeling out there that it only represents the elite player's needs, and it couldn't be further removed from the truth. Do we need more evidence for the need to change the way we do things? Are we recognising this picture? And obviously after a performance like this, players and coaching staff need to look at themselves and evaluate what's happened. But if we look a little bit deeper, we're all part of this result. Okay, every one of these players started at a club somewhere in Canada, good bulk of them in Ontario. We all play a part in ensuring that these scenes don't repeat themselves in years to come by doing our part as a membership to ensure we're putting the right building blocks in place for our players of the future. We also enjoyed moments like this year, which is great. This is success on the international stage, on the female side of the game. Okay, this is what it is like to win, and to win a medal on the Olympic stage. But don't be deceived. The same challenges exist on the female side of the pathway as the male side of the pathway. And we're fortunate, we've got a great group of players that have made some big strides under a very supportive management environment over a short period of time. But we've still got a lot of work to do to ensure consistency at this level. Hands up who was at our Soccer 12 conference back in April this year. Did we have many of the people? Great. Okay, this is probably the best representation we've had, which is good to see. We spoke a lot on this occasion to the need for unity, for the need for the game to work together, to work in collaboration. Of course, competition is good on the field, but off the field we really need to work together collectively to move the game forward. I spoke a lot about the need to move from versus to and. Okay, at the moment we live in a versus world where it's club versus club, club versus district, district versus OSA. Okay, we even have teams within a club versus the club, the male side of the game versus the female side of the game. We've got to turn those to ands. And you know, when we talk about OSA, CSA, it's us. We're the membership. We're the people that are going to make this work. I need to set the table for how we got to today, just briefly, to make sure we're at the same concrete starting point, all of us in this room. Today I'm not going to go through the principles about long-term player development, what it actually means, because we've been doing that for the last year, and we've got champions that can come out to your clubs and speak to you, whether it's to your parent groups, whether it's to coaches, whether it's to administrators and boards. And that can be accessed on our website. We've got people primed and ready to go to come out and help with that message. I'm not going to go into the challenges within our environment. I've spoken to that many times over the last year. But what I will say is, and I think it's fair to say, if I was an outsider looking in, someone not connected to soccer, I'd see a highly fractured player pathway. I'd see a lot of inter-club bickering, poaching of players, and distrust of each other. And remember, I'm an outsider looking in. I'd probably be amazed at how dysfunctional things were, and I'd probably laugh when people say they're doing things for the kids. But us, we that are in the game, we're so close to the game. We have this relationship with history, and we can't seem to see that we've actually been missing the mark in some areas. And we've been too busy protecting our patch, and that's what we're going to move on for. And I'll park that there, but I think we all need to give that some consideration as we move forward. LTPD is mandated. It's a national direction. It starts with Sport Canada, their arm for influencing sport direction and investment in sport throughout Canada is through Canadian Sport for Life, CSFL. Every national sporting organisation, well, 54 or 55 have a long-term athlete development plan. They're all at different stages of implementation. CSA's LTPD plan is Wellness to World Cup. This was released in 2008. There's now a second volume as well, more of a technical document that's been released. And that has been there for some time, setting the direction. That's our long-term player development plan nationally. What we're seeing already, funding, starting to dry up if sports aren't aligning with this national direction. Okay, and I just want to reinforce, CSA went out, researched global best practice in football and soccer, and have applied that in our document. So it's not just based on generic information with other NSOs, it's been tailored to the needs for our sport. Funding, I just spoke to funding. We received a significant Trillium grant to help us with LTPD implementation based on the fact that we're doing it. A lot of sports aren't at the same point in their implementation, and we've been given funding to help with the communication, with the tools we're developing, with some of our outreach and how we move forward over the next few years. Ministry funding is something we also receive provincially. Other sports have been significantly cut back on what they receive provincially because they haven't been taking proactive steps to implementing this initiative. So I just want you to be mindful of that as we move forward, because that same message is going to be dripping down into club environments through other funding opportunities that you all have access to. We have a new vision and a clear pathway. I'll bring the pathway up. I'll show this later on in the presentation. We call it a 2020 vision, where we've set some, have people heard of BHAGs? No? Big, hairy, audacious goal. Where we want to be in 2020, where we will be, and what that sounds like and looks like. And we've got some milestones along the way to make sure we get there. Technical Advisory Council was a group of key technical people that were brought together to make sure we took the CSA plan and made it work in Ontario. So we've been working hard over the past 18 months to make sure we keep progressing different initiatives and we prioritise at the right time and continue with this implementation. So this is the vision and pathway that we're moving towards. Ron mentioned this earlier, board support. We've had, I always say, board support every step of the way. So this started from approval of the coaching pathway to budget for this financial year for some of our initiatives, and just recently, the September board meeting, approval of the recreational and development matrices. The board's 100% behind what we're doing, which is wonderful. It helps us go out and do the work that we need to do. Soccer 12 conference. For those that weren't there, this was really where we laid out the broad strokes of where we're heading and why. We spoke to 3 priorities, being the club development plan, the Ontario Player Development League, ongoing research and development. All of those big buckets are still in play. The club development plan has taken a sideways step for the short term. Reason is CSA are producing a national club charter, so we want to make sure we're in alignment. We'll know more about that in a few months. And there's also a national initiative in that space. So by stepping sideways, waiting for that work to come through, we can ensure we're in alignment. We've also directed some of our internal resources that would be working on that program to other pressing priorities, like league progression, league solutions, for the 80% of our membership. At this conference, our message really was, this is where we're going. We released the competitive matrix and what was the recreational matrix, and said, here we go, here's the guidance and direction. We've got our work to do to give you tools on how we help you get there as a membership, but go forth, take proactive steps, and please do what you can at a club, at a district, at a league level to start to take steps towards these matrices, which really the big message, the no scores, no standings from U12 and below from 2014 on. So we painted those message and we said we're going to go away and work on the tools to help you get there, and that's what we've been doing. All right, challenges, or should we say opportunities? We accept, and I think we all know, with change, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be bumps in the road, it's not always going to be smooth sailing. We know that. There are some fair and legitimate challenges out there that we're listening to, but what I will say is a lot of perceived challenges aren't actually challenges. People aren't coming to the right source of information to understand what's happening, and there's misconceptions out there about some of these challenges. We haven't probably communicated as much as we'd like in places because we've been working on projects and we're waiting till we have that work done before we come out to you. So in absence of information, sometimes rumours start to circulate. So it's really important we come to the right source of information before we start to discuss initiatives. An example of some of that misinformation would be field sizes and extra costs with this transition towards smaller sided games. Actually, around the world and in other places in the country, it hasn't cost more money. It hasn't actually been more fields that are required. It's actually been more cost effective and efficient to clubs that have resulted in savings because we're using less space to manage more players. So we haven't provided that material to you yet, so I can understand why there is a little bit of misinformation out there, but we're working on that as well, and I'll talk more to some of those resources that will be ready for you early next year in that area. Some of the other things we're hearing: time frames unreasonable, missing out on the OPDL as being perceived as failure, and this is something that concerns me because it couldn't be further removed from the truth, and we need to really understand what we're going through and why. People aren't understanding the pathway. There's a concern for smaller clubs. Coaching qualifications, too high, something we're hearing. League structures outside of the OPDL, fields, dealing with municipalities, geographical challenges, structuring of practice and play, teams pulling out of competitive soccer. People aren't sure about this top-down leadership. They've always been able to do what they want when they want. This is some of the information we're hearing. What's clear to me is the messages that we are communicating aren't getting to where they need to get to. Who in this room's on our regular email subscription list? It's called MailChimp. So something goes out about every 3 weeks. Okay, so straight away, we've got a third of the room that's receiving those messages. 2/3 of the room isn't getting the right information. Okay, so they might be talking to other people, which is information once removed from the actual information. So really important that one of the first things we do is go and subscribe to this email list to make sure you get the information that's coming out from us, so you can stay ahead of the change that's coming and keep your membership informed. Positives far outweigh the challenges. Why there are challenges, and we're hearing about them, 80% of what we're hearing from the membership is positive, is good. We're hearing about positive leadership, direction that people haven't heard about before. OSA is communicating at last. Overwhelmingly positive feedback about changes to coaching curriculum, the Soccer for Life, the Active Start Fundamentals, Learning to Train Soccer for Life courses, the revised delivery of the Pre-B and the Provincial B licence being received so well by the membership, and I'll speak more to that as well later in the presentation. Positive momentum for change, and we're hearing a lot of good feedback. I'm going to show you the video Hopefully you have all seen this before. It's on our website. It's a tool that we want you to be passing down to your members to help them understand what LTPD is. But it really captures the key messages and speaks to why we're going through this change. In Canada. For more information on long-term player development and how it will be phased in, please visit our OSA website at ontariosoccer.net. So some great messages there, and it's really important. This is a great tool for us all as we move forward and educate our membership. And it continues to surprise me that probably under a third of the audiences we speak to have actually seen the video. So really, what I'm saying is get this out there. Work to get it down to the people. It's a tool to help us work through this process of change. Matrices, important piece of information. So these documents speak to soccer from year 12 and below across the province moving forward.